I know what I have to do to beat you. I have to finish you. And deep down inside, it's really what you want, isn't it? You want me to put an end to it. I'm not going to do it. I think I just figured it out. You know that you can't do what your buddy Shawn Michaels couldn't do. Because you know Shawn was always better than you. You want this? You want it all to come to a head? You want an end? You got it.
Welcome to the second part of the ToadySP Pac Attack trilogy. This is the story of how I became the first ever American Godhand in Pac Attack. But before I show the footage, I have some confessions to make, because this is about more than just earning a coveted title. This is more than just about becoming the greatest Pac Attack player in the Western Hemisphere. This is about me finally getting over something that has haunted me for 6 years. Many of my friends tell me that I have a serious ego problem, and honestly they're right. You want to know how bad my ego is? All this Pac Attack stuff, all of it, it all just been me trying to prove a point, cash in on a vendetta of sorts. This entire time, that's all it was. 6 years ago, I lost a friendly game of Smash Brothers with an old friend of mine. Long story short, things didn't end well between me and this guy, this friend. I got sort of outcasted from that entire friend group for reasons I still don't know. They never told me what I did wrong, but I always blame myself. I just figure, hey, I was kind of cringe back then. I said some pretty weird stuff, and I've completely moved on from all of that. But there's one thing I didn't move on from. For some reason, my ego just wouldn't let me move on from it. You see, that old recording of that Smash Brothers match, for some reason this guy kept it up after everything. I would have figured that since he ghosted me, he'd unlist the video or delete it or something. Probably wouldn't want anything to do with me, and honestly I would have respected that. I don't want anything to do with him either. But he keeps the video up for some reason, and I get to thinking, I knew this guy for about a year, and he's one of those competitive Smash players, yeah? He goes to the tournaments, he practices for 8 hours a day. He would play with the music completely turned off so you could hear sound effect cues during moves. He always made a huge deal out of the idea of me beating him. I remember once we were with people and I said, oh, I beat him once as Roy, because I was legitimately convinced that I beat him once. Like it was a fluke win, right? Realistically, I never should have been able to beat him. I suck at Smash. And he's like a pro. And he had beaten me with just about every character on the roster at least twice. Whenever we played Smash, I was essentially just a punching bag, honestly. And maybe I got a little frustrated here and there because, hey, nobody likes losing. But I never made a big deal out of it. Anyway, I was generally convinced that I had beat him like this one time. Just once. And it's the way he responded. He was like, you didn't beat me. And I was like, oh no, this one time with Roy, I'm pretty sure. He interrupts me. No. You didn't beat me. You never beat me. And it's a moment where we were having fun, I was smiling, and suddenly I wasn't smiling. Because I realized at that moment that he was genuinely offended. Like, the idea of me beating him even once legitimately set him off. It's like he didn't respect me. Like the idea of losing to a guy like me genuinely offended him. And that's when I first noticed it. That arrogance. And when I thought about that later, after everything that happened, I realized why he kept the video up. He kept it up as this big fuck off neon sign that says I'm better than you. But, it's whatever. I don't care about this guy anymore, right? It's not like I'm some stalker freak show that's salty over losing a friend 6 years ago. No. Friends come and go. Like, I get that. But this was the start. Ever since then, I've grown a deep resentment for competitive esports, especially competitive Smash players.
They stay out all night on the basketball court practicing and practicing their jump shot, practicing their hook shot, and practicing, and then they're qualified for the majors.
There's something about competitive Smash players, some sort of arrogance, some sort of obsessive behavior, some sort of egotism, where they genuinely believe that their skill in a video game makes them better people than others. It's like they think it's like having an attractive physique, or having a lot of money, or having a respectable job, or owning a nice car, but it isn't. My philosophy is when it comes to fun things, recreational activities, if you're not the best at it, you may as well be the worst. Being the best at anything is an incredibly rare thing, and being the best at something, even a recreational thing, even a fun thing, that should be respected. But simply being good at something like a video game doesn't make you better than everybody. That doesn't make you better than the average person. There are a lot of people who are good at video games. There are a lot of people who are great at video games, but there's only a microscopic few who can say undisputedly that they're the best at anything at any one time. So that deserves respect. And yet, these competitive Smash players, they will act like they are gods among men just because they have a higher than average global Smash power score than others. There was this time where I truly enjoyed playing Smash Brothers, but since my experience with this guy, I haven't been able to see it the same way. Suddenly what was once one of my favorite games of my childhood has become something I'm actively embarrassed by. I'm legitimately embarrassed that I ever considered Melee to be one of my favorite games. And I've grown a new appreciation for the casual nature of Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which has almost been universally hated by Smash players online for being too casual. I don't get what the hell has happened to everyone. What the hell has happened to everyone? Video games used to be kind of a unique thing in the world. It was a rare example of a recreational activity that you could just do and not feel like there was any pressure to perform. The appeal of gaming was that it was like this virtual fantasy world, an escape from the cruelties of reality. You go to work, you go to school, you go to whatever, you come home, you play a video game, and you know, it's like, hey, there's no pressure, you feel good, you know? There's... It's not like that anymore. It's like you look at the... I remember feeling like video games were like a symbol of progress in that way. Like, you look at the Super Bowl, and you see these giant mega athletes that have trained their body and trained all their life to throw a ball 90 yards away to a precise target. And like, it's impressive, but it's just this repetitive, endless competitive cycle where these guys are expected to perform an arbitrary and useless action as greatly as possible. And, you know, sports, you know, it's like going to work. It's like they're literally like an arbitrary fun pass the ball task that has been made so competitive that it's turned into a full-time job. Essentially meaning it's lost what made it a recreational activity in the first place. And video games just were not supposed to be that. I feel like with the invention of esports, humanity has taken 3 steps back. It's already ridiculous that people gather to watch people throw a ball back and forth, but it's a whole nother level of pathetic that people gather in a stadium and watch people play League of Legends. Like, congratulations, humanity, you took a simple pastime like gaming and have turned it into a corporate dystopian nightmare. This is what doing what you love for a living looks like. But here's the thing, I say all this, and I've said it to other friends of mine. I've had this whole monologue to other people I know. And you know what I always hear? Sounds like you just gotta get good. That's what I always hear, get good. As if my skill level has anything to do with all of this being ridiculous. All of this is completely insane. I feel crazy when I look at pictures like this. The fact that people think that this is normal makes me feel crazy. So you know what I did? 6 years ago, I decided I would prove everyone wrong. I would prove that no, not just me, anyone, has what it takes to become the best at a video game. And all this competitive gaming crap is full of it. So that's why 6 years ago, I began practicing Pac Attack. Why did I choose Pac Attack? Well, the way I see it, in order to become the best at anything, one needs 4 things: time, endurance, initiative, and a 4th thing that I had only recently now discovered. Initiative is probably the most important thing though. You see, most competitive gamers think they can get to the top of the rankings just from training for a lot of time. But unless you have no real life responsibilities whatsoever, you're not going to become the best that way. Here's how I'd put it. It's like if you were to start climbing a giant ladder, and there's a bunch of other people climbing the same ladder, and the guy who's at the highest on the ladder has been climbing for 3 years longer than you, and you think to yourself, well, if I just climb for a greater amount of time than him, and don't rest as often, then eventually I'll overtake him and end up above everyone else, right? No, that'll never happen. Either you need to be the first guy to climb the ladder, or what you need to do is find a ladder that not as many people are climbing, where the person at the top is at a height that seems somewhat reasonable to overtake. That's what having initiative is, and most people aren't smart enough to have it. Most of these competitive gamers just end up in the endless ant pile of playing stuff like Smash or Overwatch or League of Legends, where like the dudes at the top are literally paid to play them as full-time jobs. The other reason why I chose Pac Attack is because I grew up playing the game on my little Game Boy Color as a kid, and I find it disappointing that there isn't much respect for it. It seems that most people haven't even heard of it. People have heard of other games like Tetris or Puyo Puyo, but I've always viewed Pac Attack as being better than either of those. It's almost impossible to find any footage of people with decent skill playing Pac Attack. Most people die in less than 2 minutes. Some of the more lucky ones die in less than 10. Most footage you'll find are people playing the game for their first time. And I say it's fun, but like other falling block puzzle games, Pac Attack on a high skill level is a massive endurance test, and that is another reason why I picked it. You see, in order to truly beat me at Pac Attack, one would have to have so much endurance that they would be willing to practice at the game for over like 6 years, with average runs lasting upwards of 2 hours, I would say. That's like per run, and you're probably going to be doing several runs like a day. The amount of endurance that one would need to stomach this much Pac Attack is unreal, and I've gotten to a skill level where I no longer even have to pay full attention to the game to play extremely well. While people who are new to the game stressfully have to give it their full attention in order to so much as survive, I'm pulling off massive combos while watching YouTube videos. I've grown so greatly in skill that even in Godhand mode, the game is no longer a stressful endurance test, and now feels like I'm fishing in a relaxing pond. This isn't the end of my story, but for now I think it's about time that I move on to what I've been able to accomplish. In the last video I released on May 28th, 2022, I maxed out the score on easy difficulty on day 1 of Pac-Man Museum Plus's release date. Only a few days later, I recorded myself maxing out the scorecard again on normal difficulty. I'll play the unedited footage of that now. And there's the score being submitted to prove that no cheating methods were used. Since then, I've gotten very close to maxing out the scorecard on hard and hyper difficulties. You would think that on those difficulties it would be easier, but for some reason it wasn't. I think it's because of the difficulty increase at level 300. I should also mention, all 4 of these scores that you see right here are world records for the SNES version, and in general world records for any non-emulated run of Pac Attack. I say non-emulated, but what I mean is non-emulated in the sense that it is impossible to save state or use any sort of cheating method in Pac-Man Museum Plus. So for all intents and purposes on paper, I was already the world's greatest Pac Attack player at this point. But that's only on paper. Who the hell cares about that, right? In order to become the undisputed best in the world though, there was 2 challenges remaining for me. One of which was achieving the title of Godhand by beating the Godhand mode in any version of the game. Since maxing out the scorecard on normal difficulty, I began making attempts at completing Godhand mode in Pac-Man Museum Plus. Well, in regards to how well that went, let's just say there is a reason why it took nearly 3 months for this video to come out. For those who don't know, Godhand mode is accessible in the SNES version of Pac Attack by holding both shoulder buttons, pressing down and right on the D-pad at the same time, and then pressing start on the controller so that start is pressed once hyper difficulty is highlighted. This starts you at level 900, which is Godhand difficulty. In this difficulty, tiles fall at maximum speed, and Pac-Man only appears every 10th tile, which means there's essentially little to no room for any error. You must play perfectly. At this difficulty, all of your practiced methods of achieving massive combos and racking up score must go out the window, and the objective simply changes to survive. If a player is able to reach level 999 in this mode, they officially gain the title of Godhand. In the PS1 and PS2 versions of Pac Attack, the game actually ends at this point. In the Genesis and SNES versions, the game goes on indefinitely. History of the Godhands. Up until today, there have only been 9 total documented Godhands in the history of Pac Attack, 7 of which are credited in the end of the PlayStation version. The other 2 are the Japanese Godhands I mentioned in the previous video. There is no documented information or footage of the original 7 Godhands that I was able to find, but because they're credited in the original PlayStation version, we have to assume that these are legitimate Godhands who played Pac Attack back in the 90s. The rest of the information about them is a complete mystery. As for the other 2, not much more needs to be said about them that I haven't already said in my previous video. This one in particular, the Japanese Godhand, is the only one who has done more than just becoming a Godhand. I'll talk more about him later though. For now, just keep in mind that this guy is currently the undisputed best in the world at Pac Attack. In order for me to truly become the best in the world, I have to overcome or at least equal the accomplishments of this guy. On July 22nd, 2022, nearly 2 months after I maxed out the scorecard, I randomly found myself on the best run of Godhand that I had ever been on. It was strange because throughout the entire run I felt very unfocused. Previous runs that I had been on were far more focused and far more intense, yet this time it was as if the win was just falling right into my lap. I found myself at level 990, with almost no blocks on the board. I began to feel confident and even started monologuing to myself about everything I was going to say after becoming a Godhand. I truly felt unstoppable. I was going to do so much bragging. I was going to cut a heel promo. I was going to make a big video. And more than anything else, I kept thinking of how I was finally going to get revenge on that guy, the Smash player. And all the competitive Smash people and all the people who had told me that I just had to get good. I was accomplishing something that none of those people would ever be able to do. It had been 6 years, and he's gotten nowhere as a Smash player. And here I am becoming one of the undisputed greatest Pac Attack players of all time. I was gonna rub it in everyone's faces. I was gonna tell everyone. I was gonna make a big stink. I was gonna yell like to the entire world that I was right. These thoughts raced through my head, and a few even escaped my mouth as I was playing. And just like that, quickly, almost as if something had heard me, I started losing. At level 995, I was suddenly in a bad spot. I paused the game and I hit record. This is what happened. I lost on 998. 998 of 999 levels. I lost. If 5 more tiles were able to be placed, I would have won at the last possible second. Part of me started to cope with the loss. I started to tell myself, well, I died as close to the objective as possible. That just means I'm improving and my victory is inevitable. You know, these things just happen.
Chill, Jules, this shit happens.
But another part of me felt something very different.
Wrong! Wrong. This shit doesn't just happen. This was divine intervention.
Let me preface this with the statement that I'm a very superstitious person. When I saw the game over screen in the 998, deep inside I immediately knew it had to have been some sort of divine intervention. The entire game I was playing perfectly, without any error, without giving anything a second thought. And I was doing it like not focused, just empty-minded. And suddenly, just out of nowhere, right when I was the most focused, most in the zone, and most excited to finally win, It's as if some spiritual presence deemed me unworthy. It had to give me a sign that I wasn't worthy. But I still tried to cope with the loss. I played the game 4 more times after that, and each time I died on lower and lower levels. It was like 940, 930, 920. It was like I was getting worse. But really, I don't think that's what it was. I don't think that's what was happening. Some supernatural force had judged me and decided that I wasn't worthy of becoming a Godhand. My corrupt motivations may have gotten me through 6 years of practice, but they had ultimately prevented me from obtaining the victory. I mentioned earlier, in order to become the best in the world at anything, you need 4 things: time, endurance, initiative, and one other. That 4th thing is spirit. Without pure spirit, you cannot become a Godhand. You cannot become the best. I genuinely believe there is some supernatural forces at work that stop you at a certain point. So, I stopped playing Pac Attack for 3 weeks. I picked up playing Fallout New Vegas, and over the course of the last 2 weeks, I played through it to the end. After beating Fallout on August the 8th, 2022, I decided I would just casually play a game of Pac Attack Godhand while tuning into a Twitch VOD of one of my favorite streamers, APL Fisher. In the VOD, he was playing, I think it was Sniper Elite 4 with Mr. Sark. In the 6-hour VOD, they're trying, seemingly to no end, to beat the final level of Sniper Elite 4 on the hardest possible difficulty. The amount of things that went wrong in their endeavor to beat the level was so numerous and ridiculous that it seemed like divine intervention.
Sniper, you hear it? You hear the glare?
Yeah, I heard it. I heard it. Oh,
I got hit.
No.
I don't know.
Oh,
So
no.
at the camo net.
Yeah.
I'm taking cover fire. You want to grab me? Trying to give cover. He was behind us. I might have hit.
Hold on.
I might have hit him. I'm just spamming. I might have hit him once. It was behind. No!
He got me!
No!
I shot him!
He was behind us!
It's so...
How? It was
I shot him! It's...
I believe you. I literally saw him fall once from my rifle shot, from my pistol shot.
Ah, dude, the agony of that.
I mean, it's a very easy, we just have to, we have to play underneath, and then we'll just walk, we can just walk up to him. Okay, that's good. We know that now.
I think my game just crashed.
No. No.
It's fucking unbelievable.
Fucking kidding me? This fucking game.
Dude, I was lining up on the tank.
So I was playing Godhand while watching the VOD, and keep in mind this was the first attempt at Godhand I had done after nearly 2 weeks of no practice. And suddenly, just like that, I found myself at level 990 again. And this time, I kept my thoughts empty as I hit record. This is what happened. I used the right shoulder button plus start combo to suicide at the end. Just like the Japanese Godhand did during his recording of the Genesis version of Godhand, I refused to let myself die naturally so that my accomplishment would be equal to his. There's the score there. You could tell that I did it in Godhand in Pac-Man Museum Plus. The score is exactly equal, and the amount of coins it rewarded is 0 because I played on Godhand difficulty. They don't reward coins in Pac-Man Museum Plus if you're playing on Godhand. And if that wasn't enough, a day later I beat Godhand again. Here's the footage. This time I went until I actually died. I wanted to see how far I could go for the sake of practice. And once again, here's the score there for proof. So, I have 4 world records, a maxed out scorecard on 2 difficulties, and I beat Godhand twice, making myself the first documented Godhand in the entire Western Hemisphere. Well, then again, I don't know where Big Pine was from, so who knows. In any case, I will, from this point forward, be known as the American Godhand, ToadySP. So, where does this leave me? Well, there's only one more challenge, and one more opponent. But first, I think I should talk about what I learned from all this. The reason I told my story here is because I want to pass on this wisdom to whoever else may find themselves in a similar situation. The truth is that the only way to beat the past is to let it go. On both successful Godhand attempts, I had to let go of my own arrogance. I had to let go of all that pettiness, anger, and hatred. I had to let go of the past. And that's how you really become a better man. That's how you really improve. You don't become the better man by training or building skill or being tougher. You don't become the better man by gaining accolades just so you can brag about them. You become the better man by cleansing your spirit and letting go of all that hate and anger. When your soul flows freely, you can accomplish anything. I don't know for certain what divine power kept me from winning the first time, but part of me feels like it was some spiritual manifestation of America itself. That might sound a bit, big-headed for me to say, or maybe a little schizophrenic, I don't fucking know. But part of me legitimately believes that the spirit of America did not want me to become the American Godhand until I was worthy. All this time, I wanted to prove a point. I thought I wanted vengeance, but what I really needed was redemption. And I think I found it when I became the American Godhand. I now understand that when it comes to being the best at anything, there are greater powers at play. Not anyone can just become the best. When I originally set out to do this, I thought anyone could become the best, but I was wrong. No, there are greater powers at play that prevent certain people. You have to be worthy. It's like the sword and the stone. You can't just pull it out. You can't just be tough and pull it out. You have to be worthy. Otherwise, it won't let you pull it out. I think I found a new motivation for doing all this. I may have originally been motivated by wanting to get revenge and prove a point, but I'm no longer interested in that sort of thing. I think all that's petty now. Nevertheless, since I'm here, I think I may as well make all this effort worth it. I found myself in an incredibly rare situation where I'm inches away from becoming the best in the world at something, and all that remains is one opponent and one challenge. From this point forward, I'm no longer fighting anyone from my past, nor am I fighting the Japanese Godhand. From now on, I'm fighting to prove that I am worthy of being the best in the world at something. And if I'm not worthy, I want to become worthy. And that brings me to the final challenge that I now must face. I must play any of the legitimate difficulties of Pac Attack on Pac-Man Museum Plus, and I must max out the level counter. This is the equivalent of playing a run of Godhand after 6 to 7 hours of normal gameplay, all in one run. Only the Japanese Godhand has accomplished this in the past, and he is the only person in the history of Pac Attack to have done so, the only one. In order to accomplish this goal, I may have to beat Godhand several more times just to practice for this marathon. But if it's what must be done, I'm willing to do it. You know the strangest thing? Since 3 years ago, I found Pac Attack to be actually really addictive. Beyond just wanting to practice at it, I find myself naturally just wanting to play it in the way an older person plays solitaire. It's like I'm playing I'm playing on a competitive skill level, but casually right now. I regularly just find myself playing it whenever. it might legitimately be one of my all-time favorite games now. It's bizarre, really. It's like I've gotten so good that I benefit more from just autopiloting and relying off of instinct. There's occasionally conscious moments where I have to get myself out of a particularly difficult pinch, but most of the time, I just feel like I'm sailing smoothly. Whenever I see competitive players in any other field doing anything, it always seems like they care way too much. You could tell that whenever they act calm, it's just a poker face hiding an inner panic and frustration. Like, having any sort of emotion would be its own defeat to them. I used to feel that way when playing Pac Attack. There was a long period of time there where I just wasn't enjoying it, especially when I was practicing Godhand. It felt like I was abusing myself, like I was legitimately doing something unhealthy and I needed to stop. But my ego just kept pushing me. It just doesn't feel that way anymore. Now there's no malice when I play it now. It's just genuinely fun somehow. Hopefully there will be a third part to all of this. I wonder how I will feel if I end up becoming the best in the world at Pac Attack. I wonder, part of me feels like I'll just feel nothing. Maybe I'll go on to try to max out the scorecard in Godhand. Maybe some gutsy Pac Attack player will reach out and challenge me to a one-on-one in versus mode. It's too early to say. For now though, I guess this is the American Godhand, ToadySP, signing off.